the silent resurgence. The stars held many secrets, but none so terrifying as the one inscribed on the walls of the ancient Morvari temple. Located on a distant moon at the edge of the Andromeda galaxy, the temple had stood for over 10,000 years. Its stone walls covered in strange glyphs that told of a prophecy most considered mere superstition. When darkness claims the void and empires grow complacent, they shall return, the children of earth, forged in adversity, tempered by betrayal. They come not as conquerors, but as judgment. Remember their name, for they have never forgotten yours. Archiver Zilta ran her six-fingered hand over the inscription, the bioluminescent patterns on her skin casting an eerie blue glow across the ancient text. As the Galactic Federation's most respected historian, she had spent decades studying extinct civilizations. Humans were simply another fascinating failure in the long history of the cosmos, or so everyone believed. The Federation Council had dismissed her warnings. Councillor Dreven of the Latari Dominion had laughed openly during her presentation. The humans? He had scoffed, his scaled skin flushing purple with amusement. They were eradicated 3 centuries ago, their planet scorched to prevent their dangerous unpredictability from spreading. Supreme Admiral Velnox of the Zenthian Empire had nodded in agreement. Our historical records are quite clear. Operation Cleansing Light eliminated the human threat. Their colonies were systematically purged, their fleets destroyed, the few survivors scattered to the void, too primitive to pose any danger. Zilta had tried to argue, pointing to the prophecy, to the unusual energy signatures detected in the abandoned sectors near what was once called the Sol system. But the Council had other concerns. Border disputes with the Kryn Collective, resource shortages in the Outer Rim, the ongoing Cold War with the Myriad Consciousness. Humans were a closed chapter in galactic history, a minor species that had briefly shown promise before revealing their dangerous potential and being appropriately contained until the disappearances began. It started with a routine patrol vessel vanishing in the frontier zone. Then a mining outpost, going silent on Proxima Centauri 4. A research station near the edge of what was once human space ceased all communications. The pattern was unmistakable, yet still, the Council refused to see. Then came the footage. A salvage crew had managed to recover a partial recording from a destroyed Federation outpost at Barnard Star. The video showed only a few seconds of usable content. A sleek black vessel of unfamiliar design bearing no markings except for a simple emblem. A phoenix rising from ashes, surrounded by 7 stars. "It's them," Zilta had whispered when she first saw the symbol. "The 7 Stars Covenant. The human resistance we thought we had crushed centuries ago." The Galactic Security Council finally took notice when the Viridian Trading Hub, a massive space station serving as the economic center for 3 sectors, vanished entirely. Not destroyed, not attacked. Simply gone, along with its 30,000 inhabitants and defensive fleet. A message was broadcast across all Federation channels exactly 7 hours later. "You tried to erase us from history. You failed. We remember. We return. We reclaim the deal." Message was in perfect standard, but with an unmistakable human inflection that sent chills through the Federation leadership. Supreme Admiral Velnox deployed the 7th Fleet to secure the border of former human territory. Of the 47 warships sent, only 1 returned. The cruiser Indomitable Virtue, its hull scorched by weapons unlike anything the Federation had encountered before. Captain Real Core, the sole survivor, spoke of ships appearing from nowhere, moving in impossible patterns, weapons that seemed to ignore shields and armor alike. Before losing consciousness, he uttered words that would echo through the highest levels of the Federation. "They have evolved beyond what we knew. They are not the humans we destroyed. They are something more." Commander Astra Hayes stood on the observation deck of the Nemesis Dawn, watching the stars through the transparent carbon diamond viewport. Her reflection showed what most would consider a typical human. Medium height, olive skin, short black hair framing a face with sharp cheekbones, and dark, intense eyes. What the reflection couldn't show was the network of advanced biotechnology running beneath her skin, enhancing every cell, every synapse. 300 years of exile had changed humanity in ways their enemies could never have predicted. "Commander," a voice spoke from behind her. "The Ascension Protocol is complete. All 7 fleets report ready status." Hayes turned to face her executive officer, Marcus Chen. Like her, he appeared outwardly human, betraying none of the modifications that made him capable of processing information at superhuman speeds. "What's the status of the Viridian hub?" she asked. "Safely relocated to the sanctuary. The refugees are being processed. Most have agreed to memory reconstruction in exchange for asylum." Hayes nodded. Unlike the Federation, humans did not engage in genocide. Those who hadn't participated in the atrocities against Earth would be given a choice: join the new order, or have their memories adjusted and be released in neutral territory. "And the artifact?" Chen's expression tightened. "Secure in the vault. It's changing, Commander. The patterns are evolving faster than predicted. The artifact was humanity's greatest discovery and most closely guarded secret. Found in the ruins of a civilization far older than any known to the Federation, it had awakened something dormant in human DNA. Abilities that transcended conventional understanding of physics and biology. Some called it evolution. Others destiny. Hayes called it justice. "Admiral Kingston is waiting for you in the war room," Chen added. Hayes took one last look at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, or what remained of it after the Federation's Scorched Earth campaign. The homeworld they had been forced to abandon but never forgot. The war room hummed with activity as officers coordinated the movements of the 7 fleets. At the center of the room stood Admiral James Kingston, one of the few pure humans left in the high command. At 97, he remained vital and sharp, his age held at bay by medical technology developed during the long exile. "Astra," he greeted her with a nod. "The Federation has deployed their home fleet to Arcturus. They still think we're coming from the old borders." Hayes studied the holographic display showing enemy positions. "They don't understand how we move." "They never did understand us," Kingston said quietly. "That was their first mistake. The slip space technology that humans had developed allowed their ships to travel through dimensional folds rather than conventional space. No light speed limitations, no detectable warp signatures. To the Federation, human ships appeared to teleport across vast distances, an impossibility according to their understanding of physics. "The Council has called an emergency session," reported Intelligence Director Fei Wong, entering the room with a data tablet. "Our sources indicate they're finally taking the prophecy seriously." 300 years too late, Hayes said. Wong handed her the tablet. "They're gathering at Centauri Nexus. All high-level representatives in one place." Hayes studied the information, a plan forming in her mind. "Perfect." Kingston raised an eyebrow. "You're not suggesting we attack the Nexus? That's their most heavily defended position." "Not attack," Hayes corrected. "Reveal." The plan came together quickly. Operation Daybreak would be humanity's formal reintroduction to the galactic stage. Not as victims seeking revenge, but as a power demanding recognition and accountability. As preparations were finalized, Hayes retreated to her private quarters and activated the secure communication channel to the sanctuary, humanity's hidden homeworld, shielded from detection by technology that bent light and other electromagnetic radiation around the entire planet. The holographic image of High Chancellor Alara Wright materialized, the elected leader of the human remnant. "Is it time?" Wright asked without preamble. Hayes nodded. "We move on Centauri Nexus in 6 hours. The Federation Council will be there. The artifact is responding as predicted." The Chancellor's expression remained impassive, but Hayes could see the emotional weight in her eyes. Wright had been born on Earth, one of the last children evacuated before the bombardment began. She had watched her homeworld burn from a rescue ship's viewport. "Remember our covenant, Commander," Wright said softly. "Justice, not vengeance. Revelation, not destruction." "I remember," Hayes replied. "But they need to understand what they've awakened." As the communication ended, Hayes touched the small pendant at her throat. a piece of metal salvaged from the ruins of Earth, shaped into the phoenix emblem that now adorned all human vessels. Throughout the fleet, thousands of officers and crew members prepared for the operation that would change the course of galactic history. They were the descendants of refugees, of survivors, of those who had refused to accept extinction. And as the Nemesis Dawn led the first fleet into slipspace, Commander Astra Hayes felt the power of the artifact resonating through the ship's quantum network, connecting every enhanced human in a symphony of purpose. The Federation had forgotten the most important lesson about humanity. They thrived when cornered. They evolved when challenged. They unified when threatened. And after 3 centuries of preparation, humanity was ready to remind the galaxy why the ancient prophecy had warned of their return. The silent resurgence had begun. Reckoning of Fire the EO. Centauri Nexus gleamed like a jewel against the void, its massive spiral structure housing the greatest concentration of power in the known galaxy. Originally built as a neutral meeting ground for the various species of the Federation, it had evolved into the cultural and political heart of galactic civilization. Hundreds of ships surrounded it in defensive formations, the largest gathering of military might since the Hive War 2 centuries prior. Inside the Grand Assembly Chamber, representatives from over 300 worlds argued, their voices rising in panic as reports of human activities spread throughout the sectors. Supreme Admiral Vel Knox slammed his fist against the podium. "We will crush these human remnants. As we did before, I have mobilized the combined fleet, 17,000 warships converging on their suspected positions." Archiver Zilta, finally granted proper audience after years of warnings, shook her head. "You still don't understand. The humans you face today are not the same species you thought you eradicated 3 centuries ago." "Explain," demanded High. Counselor Thrafdal of the Ethereum Collective. Shilta activated a holographic display, showing recovered footage from the destroyed outposts. "Observe their movement patterns, their technology. They've developed abilities that defy our understanding of physics. The prophecy warned us. They were forged in adversity, tempered by betrayal. We forced them to evolve by trying to exterminate them." Before anyone could respond, the chamber's lights flickered. The massive view screen surrounding the assembly suddenly activated, displaying a single image, the phoenix emblem of the human fleet. A voice echoed through the chamber, calm and measured. "Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Federation, my name is Commander Astra Hayes of the Earth Reclamation Force. For 3 centuries you have told yourselves that humanity was extinct, a problem solved, a threat eliminated. You were wrong." The screens shifted to show a massive fleet of sleek, black ships emerging from what appeared to be tiers in space itself. Hundreds of vessels materializing simultaneously around the Nexus, bypassing the defensive perimeter entirely. "We do not come seeking your destruction, though you sought ours," Hayes continued. "We come seeking accountability." Panic erupted in the chamber as security forces rushed to evacuate the delegates. Supreme Admiral Vel Knox barked orders into his communicator, mobilizing the defense fleet to engage the human ships. But the first shots never came. Instead, a single vessel, larger than the others, identified as the Nemesis Dawn, moved toward the Nexus, ignoring the weapons locked onto it from all sides. Commander Hayes stood on the bridge of the Nemesis Dawn, feeling the artifact's energy flowing through her enhanced nervous system. Around her, the bridge crew operated with silent efficiency, their minds linked through a quantum network that allowed for instantaneous coordination. "Defense fleet is targeting us," reported Tactical Officer Diaz, her eyes glowing slightly as she processed the incoming data. "Over 2,000 weapons systems locked on." "Shield status?" Hayes asked. "Phase shields at full capacity," Chief Engineer Okafor responded. "Resonance field stable." Phase shield technology was one of humanity's most significant developments during exile. Defense systems that shifted matter partially out of normal space-time, allowing energy weapons and physical projectiles to pass through without causing damage. "Take us in," Hayes ordered. "Maintain non-aggressive posture." As the Nemesis Dawn approached the Nexus, the Federation ships opened fire, a barrage of energy weapons and kinetic projectiles that would have annihilated any conventional vessel. The shots passed harmlessly through the human flagship. Hayes felt a moment of grim satisfaction at the shocked communications they intercepted from the Federation commanders. But this demonstration wasn't about military superiority. It was about forcing recognition. "We're receiving a direct communication from the Nexus," Communications Officer Rivera announced. "Supreme Admiral Velnox." Hayes nodded, and the Admiral's image appeared on the main view screen, his scaled face rigid with controlled fury. "Whatever abomination you have become," Velnox hissed, "you will not prevail against the combined might of the Federation." Hayes studied him calmly. "We already have, Admiral. If destruction were our goal, this conversation wouldn't be happening." She gestured, and the view screen split to show multiple feeds. Human vessels positioned near key Federation worlds, military, installations and resource centers across the galaxy. "We could have struck anywhere at any time," Hayes continued. "Instead, we chose revelation. The Federation was built on a foundation of lies. Your prosperity was purchased with genocide, not just of humans, but of any species deemed unpredictable or dangerous to your vision of order." Velnox's expression faltered slightly. "What do you want?" "Justice," Hayes answered simply. "Starting with the truth." The Grand Assembly Chamber had fallen silent as the confrontation played out on the view screens. Archiver Zilta moved closer to the display, her historian's mind racing as she pieced together the implications. "The archives," she whispered. "The restricted vaults on Elysium Prime, they contain the true records, don't they?" High Counselor Thrave-Dull shot her a warning glance, but it was too late. Hayes had heard the comment through the open channel. "Precisely, Archiver Zilta," Hayes responded. "The Federation's darkest secrets, sealed away from public knowledge. The systematic elimination of 17 species deemed too unpredictable for your perfect order. Operation Cleansing Light was merely one campaign in a larger pattern." Murmurs spread through the assembled representatives as species that had long considered themselves equal partners in the Federation began to question the foundations of their alliance. Supreme Admiral Velnox cut the public transmission, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper audible only to Hayes and the Federation leadership. "You cannot possibly expect us to submit to the demands of a species that has clearly become something monstrous. These abilities, these technologies, they prove we were right to attempt your extinction." Hayes leaned forward, her expression hardening. "Then perhaps a demonstration is in order." She closed her eyes, accessing the quantum network that linked all enhanced humans across the fleet. Through this connection, they could channel the artifact's energy, a power that even after centuries of study they didn't fully understand. Across the Federation fleet, weapon systems suddenly deactivated, engine controls locked, communication arrays fell silent. 2,000 warships rendered temporarily inert by a synchronized pulse of directed quantum disruption. In the assembly chamber, the delegates watched in horror as their mightiest defense force hung powerless in space. "We could dismantle your civilization piece by piece," Hayes said, her voice echoing through the now silent chamber. "But that is not our purpose. Humanity remembers what you seem to have forgotten: the value of diversity, of unpredictability, of evolution through cooperation rather than control." The massive view screen shifted again, displaying historical footage extracted from the restricted archives. The truth of the Federation's founding and expansion, the containment protocols enacted against species deemed too independent or unpredictable. 3 days from now, these records will be broadcast across all Federation worlds, Hayes continued. The people you claim to protect deserve to know the truth about their leadership. After that, we will present our terms for a new relationship between humanity and the Federation. In her private chambers aboard the Centauri Nexus, Archiver Zilta reviewed the historical footage with a mixture of horror and validation. As the Federation's most respected historian, she had suspected there were gaps in the official record. Convenient omissions that painted the ruling species in a more benevolent light. But the scale of the deception surpassed even her darkest theories. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Commander Hayes, flanked by 2 officers whose subtle enhancements were visible only to a trained eye. "You're taking a risk coming here in person," Zilta observed. Hayes smiled slightly. "Perhaps. But I wanted to meet the one Federation official who tried to warn the others about us." Zilta gestured to the historical records displayed on her screens. "I knew there were inconsistencies in our history, but this systematic elimination of unpredictable species, how did you discover the truth?" "We had help," Hayes said, taking a seat across from the historian. "Not every Federation species approved of the High Council's methods. There were those who secretly preserved records, who helped human survivors escape during the Purge. The Lorians, Zilta realized. They disappeared from Federation space shortly after Operation Cleansing Light. We were told they migrated to another galaxy." Hayes nodded. "They helped us establish our first sanctuary worlds. In return, we shared our developing technologies. The Federation's attempt to destroy us created something unprecedented, an alliance of exiles and dissidents, growing stronger beyond your borders." Zilta studied the human commander with professional curiosity. "And these abilities your people have developed, they're not just technological, are they?" "No," Hayes confirmed. "The artifact we discovered changed us on a genetic level. We've evolved in ways that would have been impossible without the catalyst of near extinction. Your leaders were right to fear human potential, but wrong to think they could contain it. The Archiver considered this. What happens now? Your fleet could destroy the Nexus, eliminate the Federation leadership in one strike, and become what we despise?" Hayes shook her head. "No. Revenge is easy. Building something better is the true challenge." She stood, handing Zilta a small data crystal. "This contains the complete, unaltered history of the Federation, including the resistance movements within your own ranks. When the truth emerges, your people will need historians who can help them understand." 3 days later, as promised, the transmission began. On thousands of worlds across Federation space, citizens watched as centuries of carefully constructed propaganda crumbled. They learned of civilizations eradicated not for aggression, but for independence, of genetic research programs designed to make member species more compliant, of the true purpose behind the mysterious relocation programs that had periodically removed disruptive elements from Federation society. The Supreme, Admiral, and several members of the High Council attempted to dismiss the revelations as human fabrications. Their denials fell apart when prominent Federation scientists and officials, long silenced by threats and coercion, stepped forward to confirm the truth. On the 7th day after the human fleet's appearance at Centauri Nexus, representatives from both sides met on neutral ground, a space station constructed specially for the occasion at the exact coordinates where Earth had once orbited the Sun. The Federation delegation, hastily reorganized after several governments had collapsed in the wake of the revelations, approached the negotiations with caution and humility previously unknown to them. The human representatives, led by High Chancellor Wright and Commander Hayes, presented their terms. They did not demand territory, reparations, or punishment for those responsible for Earth's destruction. Instead, they proposed something more revolutionary: a complete restructuring of galactic governance with systems to prevent any species or coalition from dominating others. "The age of secrets and suppression is over," declared Chancellor Wright as the historic agreement was formalized. "Today marks the beginning of a new era, one where diversity is celebrated rather than controlled, where evolution proceeds without artificial constraints." As the delegates dispersed, Commander Hayes stood at a viewport, gazing at the empty space where Earth had once been. Admiral Kingston joined her, his expression contemplative. "Not what they expected from us," he remarked. Hayes nodded. "That's the point. We've spent 3 centuries evolving beyond what they tried to make us. Victims, then monsters, then myths. We became something else entirely." "And the artifact?" Kingston asked quietly. "Its influence continues to spread." Hayes touched the pendant at her throat, feeling the subtle resonance that connected her to every enhanced human. Whatever it's changing us into, I believe it's something the galaxy needs. Not conquerors or avengers, but guardians, Kingston finished. Protectors of diversity rather than its enemies. Above them, a new space station was already under construction, the first phase of a memorial that would eventually restore Earth. Molecule by molecule, using the advanced matter manipulation technology humans had developed during their exile, the galaxy had ignored an ancient warning about humanity's potential. They had attempted to erase humans from history, only to create a force unlike anything they could have imagined, a species reborn through adversity, tempered by betrayal, and ultimately transformed into something greater than their would-be destroyers had ever feared, not through vengeance but through transcendence. The reckoning had come not as fire but as light, illuminating truths long hidden and forging a path toward a future where no species would face extinction for the crime of being unpredictable. For in unpredictability lay the greatest strength of all, the capacity to become more than what was intended.